What's up, guys? Ian here, normally coach of your Ladner Lantern, but here coach of your Stow-On-Side Stufful, aka B. Bringing you guys our ABDL Season 2 run. This is the first movie in 5. There will be 5 different parts to this, broken up into 3 matches each. So this is a 12-week season, and so it'll branch weeks 1, 2, and 3 in this video, 4, 5, and 6 in the next, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then spoiler, I made playoffs, so I'll have a playoff episode after that. I guess I'll give a brief rundown of ABDL before we get into our week 1 match here. ABDL is the Anonymous Battlers Draft League, run by my good pal, it's Shade99. It's a bunch of friends from NCL and whatnot, where we take on alts, and Shade makes alts for us based on different characters in the Pokemon universe. We draft as alts, we schedule as alts, we battle as alts. That's why you see our alt names on there and the little question mark avatars. Last season was Ubers, and that was because season 1, I should say, was Ubers, and that was because it was the end of Gen 7 and people wanted to have a little mix-up. Excuse me, but Shade included the Ubers this time. In the draft, we were required to draft 2 Galarian Pokemon, like specifically brand new Pokemon from the Galar decks. And then from there, it was the same sort of thing. Ubers were in an S tier that were 220 points. And then everything else was pretty standardized to a regular tiered draft that you would normally see. I guess maybe I should talk about my my draft before we get into this here. So I ended up actually drafting Dracovish first. And there was a bidding system, and we got a certain amount of dollars or something to bid on. And there were 5 boxes that you could bid on, and so I bid on a box, and I won it. And the restriction is that there were multiple Galar tiers, and so one of them had to be Galar tier 1 to 3 or something, and then the second one had to be Galar tier 4 or 5, I think. And so the box that I won did not restrict me to that. I could take any tier of Galar Pokemon that I wanted. Unfortunately for the Galar Dex Pokemon, they're kind of bad, so I ended up just taking the 2 that I was required in the same tiers, so my box actually meant absolutely nothing. But there were other boxes where you could start with +1 differential or -1 differential, and Nessa actually won a box where she could trade draft spots, forcibly trade draft spots with someone, and so she forcibly took the first pick. I don't remember what pick I was in this draft. I'm not completely sure, to be honest, but I know that Dracovish fell to me, and so I took Dracovish first. At the time, this was right when the games came out, and I thought the Dracovish was going to be hot shit, like the next big thing. And then I took Yveltal round 2 because it was probably the best Uber on the board, in my opinion, besides an Arceus form. In Season 1, I was Berg and the Castelia City Caterpie. I ended up finishing first in the regular season, record-wise, last season. And I had Arceus Electric, and it just absolutely dominated everyone with Tapu Bulu to nullify the ground weakness. And then I got yeeted out of quarterfinals by Jed, who went on to win the entire thing as Faulkner. But I didn't want to try an Arceus form this time because I had an Arceus form last time, so I wasn't really sure what I wanted to go with there. A lot of people ended up not taking an Uber at all, maybe because they didn't want to. Like, sort of a lesser Uber. For example, this first matchup that we're playing here against Kabu and the Motostork Moltres, his Uber was Protean Greninja. No, not Protean Greninja, maybe Speed Boost Blaziken. Either one of them are higher things, or they may just both be tier 1s. I could be wrong. But 2 really high value tier 1s, so that is what's going on there. And so, anyway, the rest of my draft filled out with Lando T, Heatran, Delmise, Mienshao, Vikavolt, Articuno, Mega Beedrill, because I wanted some more pivot with Yveltal, especially just getting Yveltal in as much as I can with things like Vikavolt, Lando, and Mega Beedrill I thought was really important. I ended up taking Dracovish Boltund, which I really hated, and we'll talk about that later on in the season. But Boltund, just to fill a speed tier, to be completely honest, I didn't need the electric typing, and I probably should have taken a psychic type, because I actually didn't take a psychic type at all in this draft. Yveltal and then Comfey as my fairy. So the speed tiers ended up working out actually quite well. And there was a lot of Volt turn going on with the team, which I really enjoyed with the idea of having Yveltal around. There's a decent amount of removal. I think Articuno in particular was quite a steal. I grabbed it from tier 5, and with heavy duty boots, this mon is definitely tier 4. Very, very powerful Pokemon. But all of that aside, let's start getting into things here. We played each coach once. There were 12 coaches, and then I have a rematch against my week 2 opponent in week 12. But we'll get to the week 2 match in a little bit. So how I'm going to do these is I'm basically going to run through my prep for the opposing team and then go through the replay and then immediately go into week 2, immediately go into week 3, and then we'll wrap. And then I'll do that 4 times and we'll go into playoffs. And then at the end of the playoffs episode, I'll sort of recap the entire season and my stats and whatnot and how they affect that. But the season is completely over, so there's no worries about me leaking my alt or anything like that. Although I have had worries about that in the past. In past videos, I've maybe brought up a team or accidentally shown that I have the folder. Last season was different because we knew all of the people participating, but we didn't know which alt they were given. This season, we didn't know who was participating, and we didn't know what alt they were given, so I bluffed quite hard that I was not playing this season, and people only found out that I was playing like 100% at the end of the season when we did a coach reveal night. So first up here, we were taking on Kabu and the Motostoke Moltres. His team is Speed Boost Blaziken, Silvally, Nidoking, Jolteon, all of which came, of course, Gourgeist, Sliggoo, Mega Scizor, Hatterene, Ice-Cube, Protean Greninja, and Aerodactyl. I'm ending up bringing Lando T, Heatran, Vikavolt, Articuno, Dracovish, and Yveltal. So pretty powerful team week 1. Triple flying and a levitator, so Nidoking is like less of a problem for me. I think I'm, well, I'll get to that in a sec, but I'm Scarf Heatran with Eruption, Dragon Pulse for something. What's it for? Dragon Pulse is for the Sliggoo. Flamethrower, Flash Cannon, running enough speed for base 130s. So Ice Cube, when it is in Ice Face form, or like when its face is broken, is base 130, along with Aerodactyl and Jolteon, both base 130s as well. So I'm outspeeding those, which are the fastest things there. Dracovish, I'm also bringing Scarf Dracovish with Vicious Rend, Crunch, Ice Fang, and Super Fang. I'm running enough speed for the base 130s, so just like Heatran. Yveltal is an expert built set with Dark Pulse, Oblivion Wing, Heat Wave, and U-Turn, and I'm running enough speed for some base 95 Silvally, I guess. Lando T is a Rocky Helmet, relatively Fizdef set to try and handle Blaziken and Mega Scizor. U-Turn, Rocks, Earthquake, and Knockoff, and I'm running enough speed on this for 296 Nidoking. Vikavolt is an Assault Vest set with Bug Buzz, Thunderbolt, Volt Switch, and Flash Cannon. Very specially defensive. I'm actually entirely specially defensive with Assault Vest. So the idea is kind of that this is a Nidoking switch-in. It's also my Jolteon answer, and that's about it. No. Protean Greninja. It's supposed to be my Protean Greninja check, as well as Hatterene. And then Articuno, I'm also running a fully specially defensive Articuno with Roost, Freeze Dry, Hurricane, and Defog, heavy duty boots. And so that is the team. So getting into things here, I'm just going to lead with the Dracovish because I feel like I can just claim a kill turn 1. It turns out that he's actually Scarf Protean Greninja because that should not have done that much, and I get the Vicious Rend off, doing quite a lot. But now that we know that it's Scarf, I can easily switch into my Yveltal. Despite giving him the Dark Aura, it's actually just better for me to do that, and then I get to pivot out for free. Interestingly, Scizor comes in. I could have Heat Waved there, and it would have been an alright play actually, but ends up being fine. Silvally Ground does not want to take that Eruption. It looked like it was a roll to me, based on what was going to happen there. So he is going to Parting Shot out. The eruption damage is about half, and I didn't want to lose any. I'm just going to pause here for a sec because I'm a little bit behind as he Parting Shots out, but I didn't want to lose any momentum. So I could have Eruptioned again, but I predicted either a Blaziken coming in and getting a speed boost or not getting the roll on the Silvally, which would have really sucked. So yeah, had I not got the roll on the Silvally, that would have been really bad. So I ended up switching into the Articuno, and he Parting Shotted on the reasonably obvious switch into the Articuno. I think in hindsight, he probably would have regretted Silvally Ground against my team. Despite it being good against Heatran and good against, I guess, Boltund. Ground in particular is actually not very effective against my team, like pretty much at all. With Lando, Yveltal, Articuno, Vikavolt having Levitate, I've got a Delmise in the back. Like, Ground is just not that great against me. And particularly in this matchup, it really only hits the Heatran. Like nothing. There's 4 immunities to multi-attack, like a ground multi-attack. So it could just be that it's a ground typing for some reason. Although ground typing is only useful to stop like Vikavolt plus Bolton. So, anyways, either way, the Scissor gets to come in on the parting shot. This is a pretty free Lando for me. I did design this to be physically defensive for the Scissor, and we obviously get the U-turn out there. Knowing that this is Scarf Greninja, I can just go into my Articuno, which is fully specially defensive. We know it's specially offensive, and so I'm not going to take that much damage. The Ice Beam does a little bit because, you know, it's a Greninja, but I get a fat Hurricane off on the Mega Scissor switching in, and that is a pretty free Lando on the Mega Scissor as well. Given that it's roosting, I've got the Intimidate off now. This is a pretty free Rocks turn for me. I thought I could punish the Greninja, but he makes a good play by going into Greninja on the Rocks. And then Articuno comes in an Ice Beam here. This is a pretty free Roost for me on this next turn, and now Greninja is definitely dying unless there's Defog on the Blaziken or the Silvally. Jolteon comes in and shows leftovers, so we know that it's not faster than my Heatran. As well as Sub, but Bug Buzz goes through Sub, so even though it's a Sub-Toxic set, I'm actually just going to be able to kill this thing with 2 Bug Buzzes, so he is forced to switch out into the Mega Scissor on the Bug Buzz. It takes a lot of damage, which is actually really surprising to me because I was fully specially defensive Vikavolt, but again, Lando just comes in on Scissor for free pretty much every single time. I opt to U-turn here, and I show that I'm faster, so it's like not a very fast Scissor, and I get my Heatran in for free on the SD, and then I punish it with an Eruption. So him staying in there I think was actually a little bit suspicious, but it ended up breaking a hole that I really needed to be broken. Blaziken's going to come in and set up a Sub, so again with the Sub here, it's Sub Punch in the end, and because of that it's going to get the Focus Punch off, which does pretty much nothing, taking Rocky Helmet Chip and letting its Sub get broken by Earthquake. Earthquake is absolutely not, like, it's completely non-punishable on his side. Completely free because he doesn't have any immunities. So Silvally's going to come in here on the Lando. I'm going to scout and see if I'm faster and U-turn into my Yveltal on what I consider to be an Ice Beam, and I wasn't super worried about it, but even though he's going to get rid of the rocks, I can just Dark Pulse that thing for free. Nidoking is going to come in, and I'm just going to opt to take the hit and go for the Oblivion Wing, see what sort of damage it does. Ice Beam is not going to kill me, and Oblivion Wing will kill pretty much whatever wants to come in. I predicted the Jolteon there, and I got to Dark Pulse. Dark Pulse should have killed the Nidoking from that range as well, so it was relatively irrelevant. Greninja is going to U-turn on my Articuno and back into the Nidoking, but it doesn't really matter because my Articuno is kind of designed to take on Nidoking. In theory, at least it was. So I'm going to bring in Vikavolt on the Nidoking for whatever reason. Get a Flash Cannon off that does not enough damage, and where am I going to go from here? Back into Heatran. Okay, so obviously he's not going to Earth Power. It's not locked into Sludge Wave, but it could have been. So Heatran claims that kill, and then Articuno is just going to be able to tank whatever hits this Greninja wants to go for, which is indeed Surf, which crits me for 35. So you can see that's not doing very much damage to me at all, and I just get to, what am I doing? Why am I not freeze drying this? Yeah, that Roost was completely irrelevant. I'm not sure why I did that, but there we go. A crit just did 35%. I clearly was not paying attention, but we're going to be able to pick up the 3-0 win over Kabu in the Motostoke Moltres. Or sorry, not 3-0, 6-0 win over Kabu in the Motostoke Moltres there. I feel like I had all of the defensive threats, the defensive checks that I needed this game. And honestly, his choice of Silvally Ground in particular just was not really good against my team at all. Turns out Dracovish did almost nothing this game. It was primarily the Articuno, Yveltal, Lando, and Heatran that did quite a lot this game for me. I'm not entirely sure what my thought process was on going into Vikavolt there on the Nidoking. I may have been predicting something like Rock Slide to come out because I was a little bit worried about the Nidoking outspeeding my Articuno. They do speed tie, and it's more likely that the Nidoking is going to run speed when I'm not running any speed at all. So I was just a tad bit worried there. Moving on, that is the end of Game 1. Next in Week 2 here, we are taking on Marnie and the Yelling Yamper. So let me run through Marnie's team here. She has Gothitelle, Incineroar, Rotom-Mow, Rabombi, Drapion, Volibee, Mega Blastoise, which is allowed to have Shell Smash, Snom, which is a complete waste of space, and you can see is in this game. Berserker, which is also a really low tier Galermon, but he didn't have a lot of free points. Sorry, she didn't have a lot of free points left because they also took Kyurem White, as well as Diggersby, which lost return in this gen. So it's still okay, but it did lose return. And then the team that I'm bringing, let me pull it up here. Team that I'm bringing is Mega Beedrill with Fellstinger, U-Turn, Poison Jab, and Drill Run. I'm outspeeding Rabombi with this, so I get to be adamant. Rabombi is like the fastest thing. There's a huge speed gap between Rabombi and then Drapion and Kyurem White at base 95. So this team heavily relies on webs. And Beedrill with a Fellstinger set can pick off the Gothitelle or anything low, really, Snom, things like that, and kind of just clean up this game. So I figured that was pretty good win condition for me. Yveltal is a choice Scarf Yveltal set so that I can outspeed like a modest Smash Choice if it's not outspeeding Scarf Yveltal. U-Turn, Dark Pulse, Oblivion Wing, and Knockoff. I'm actually purposely outspeeding Kyurem White as well in case it is a Scarf Kyurem White. Or Scarf Drapion, really, but like nothing on this team really wants to take dark moves. In fact, the only dark resist is Rabombi. In the team that she brought this time, there's an Incineroar, of course, on the team, which didn't come, and a Vullaby. Like, there's triple dark on this team. So I don't know why none of them came against Yveltal, but whatever. That's what Knockoff is for on the Yveltal, is for Vullaby's Violate, but... yeah, Vikavolt is next as well. It's a Life Orb Modest set with Webs, Thunderbolt, Bug Buzz, and Volt Switch. Which is completely offensive. Max Special Attack, Modest, Max HP. Heatran is coming as a Shuckleberry set. It's relatively offensive as well with Rocks, Roar, Flash Cannon, and Explosion. The idea is that I can get Rocks up and roar things out. And you'll notice that Beedrill, Yveltal, and Vikavolt already could get out of a trap from Gothitelle. And so Heatran, the idea behind Roar is that I'm not trapped by Gothitelle. Explosion, just to sort of like finish off a Kyurem White if I absolutely had to. I'm Shuckleberry, so I should, in theory, live in Earth Power if it's Life Orb and not Specs. If it's Specs, then I'm screwed anyways, but if it's Specs, then I can revenge it with Beedrill or Yveltal. Delmise is Colberberry for Blastoise's Dark Pulse, and I'm running a little bit of Spadef, enough to live. 2 Dark Pulses, no, 1 Dark Pulse for sure after Smash, and Power Whip will definitely OHKO it back with my investment. Rapid Spin, Power Whip, Shadow Claw, and Knockoff, again there for the Vullaby, which did not come. And then Lando is Banded with U-Turn, Earthquake, Knockoff, and Superpower, and I'm actually running Adamant because I'm outspeeding the base 78s on this team, which are Mega Blastoise and Diggersby, and those are the nearest things that I could have outsped besides like Rotom, but I don't really think that outspeeding Rotom Mo is that important in this matchup, and it didn't end up mattering because the Rotom didn't come. So, yeah, again, another way to get out on the Gothitelle. I've got oh my god, Ghost coverage on the Delmise for the Gothitelle, so everything on my team can handle Gothitelle if it is trapped in against the Gothitelle, which makes it kind of a bad bring in my opinion. But let me just fix the logo, and we will get into things here, taking on Marnie and the Yelling Yamper. I'm just going to lead with Heatran. It's pretty free rocks against Rabombi lead, and I figured I could just get up a Flash Cannon damage off on the Rabombi. He's going to opt to Powder, which is really cool tech, but I'm not running any fire coverage for it this time. And then it's just going to die. Well, it Quiver Dances on my Roar, which is kind of whack. Goes into Berserker, which scared out of the by the fire move, and I'm just going to continuously roar over and over and over again. Blastoise is taking a lot of chip from these rocks as I continuously roar. Again, I don't have fire coverage for the Berserker. Kyurem White is going to come in and, well, luckily for us, it is Shell Bell rather than, like, Life Orb or anything. So I get the Flash Cannon damage off, and then I'm just going to explode. Heatran kind of did what it needed to. You know, trading Heatran for Kyurem White, I will take every single day of the week, by the way. Like, absolutely every single day of the week. He's going to opt to sack off the Rabombi here. The Blastoise took a lot of chip from rocks. It took 3 rounds of rocks. And unfortunately for me, it's going to flinch me. Yeah, so it's going to flinch me through the Dark Pulses with Colbur, and then crit me on the next turn, which I can't remember if that mattered. I want to say it didn't. But basically, the webs are going to stay now, so
That's kind of unfortunate. He's going to be able to rapid spin away the rocks, which would have supremely screwed over the Snom, but eventually, sorry, she. But it's not really going to matter. Berserker comes in. I'm not really sure what this wants to do, but Lando coming in on it is pretty free, and I basically just get to Banded U-turn out, which obliterates the Gothitelle where it stands. Yveltal gets to come in and pretty much get another kill. Snom is going to click something, counters or mirror code or something. Yeah, mirror code against a dark type, which doesn't work. So Oblivion Wing's gonna be able to pick that off, and then I believe I can just go Lando on the Berserker, and then click Bandit Earthquake and finish this one out here. Gyro Ball does quite a bit, even at -1, because of Sealy Spirit or something, I think, or Tough Claws. But Banded Lando is going to be able to pick that one off. So another win. So now we're 2-0 plus 10. A nice 4-0 win here over Marnie and the Yelling Yapper. Not much I could do about that. You know, I probably didn't have to explode. I wasn't really expecting the Ice Beam from the Kieran White, and I felt like Explosion was just my best play in case she switched at any point. But really, all of the roaring from my Heatran early on put a lot of pressure on her. Roaring in the Blastoise on rocks 3 times, roaring in the Berserker to take a bunch of chip, and the Berserker obviously couldn't touch my Heatran either. And then actually getting the Kieran White was pretty clutch. I thought the Flash Cannon might have killed there, but the Shell Bell actually was enough to heal it up past a range where Flash Cannon would kill it after the Earth Power damage. And then I would not have had to explode because I could have exploded on something else. But we ended up basically, Heatran got a 2-for-1 essentially by killing the Ribombee with rocks and the Kieran White total. And then Yveltal ended up putting work, and Banded Lando just cleaned up a few of those kills. So fairly easy game. We do have a rematch with Marnie later on. So I didn't want to show off too many of the sets. The Beedrill obviously didn't even get to come out, neither did the Vikavolt. My Delmise basically didn't get to do anything. I showed Colbur Berry and Rapid Spin. My Heatran was the big thing. I showed the entirety of the Heatran set, and I barely showed anything from the Lando. But if she was calking, then she'd be able to figure out that it was banded, probably. Considering the U-turn killed the Gothitelle, but I don't really know the Gothitelle's investment either. So, yeah, fun things there. Obviously, in a rematch, I don't think Snom would ever come, like, ever. Ribombee probably a little bit less likely to come against me in the future, especially knowing Powder. I didn't really predict that. I just opted out of bringing a fire move at all on Heatran because it was pretty irrelevant against this team. Really only hit the Berserker better than something like Seal Coverage, which also hit the Snom, it hit the Ribombee, and it hit the Kieran White, all things that I would also probably carry fire coverage for. So I really like the Berserker and the Rotom-Mow, but I wasn't carrying fire coverage for either of those, so ended up not mattering. All right, week 3, last week of this episode, we're taking on Sonia and the Natdex Nation. So Sonia's team consists of Celesteela, Sylveon, Nidoqueen, Araquanid, Umbreon, Tangela, Mega Alakazam, Galarian, Rapidash, Stonjourner, Zekrom, and Talonflame at this point. I believe she did drop Talonflame from Moltres later, which is interesting. I didn't realize that they were both in the same tier. Moltres is like objectively the better pick over Talonflame, but Talonflame filled in a sort of speed gap for her between Mega Alakazam and Galarian Rapidash. Zekrom, it kind of blanked my mind that Zekrom got Dragon Dance until before prepping for this, and Zekrom is definitely a threat. Definitely a threat. I mean, Ubers on any team are a threat, but the problem with this team is that there's a Celesteela, a Mega Alakazam, and a Zekrom, along with double Wish Pass. Like, this team is very difficult to prep for. I was actually really shocked to see the Stonjourner in this game, of all things. And Tangela, I didn't prep for enough. I prepped much harder for the Celesteela, and it not coming was a little bit shocking to me. So, in this game, I'm bringing the Lando T, Heatran, Articuno, Dracovish, Boltund, and Yveltal. So this is Boltund's first game, which was mainly there for the Celesteela, but that's okay. So Dracovish is a Scarf set with Vicious Rend, Iron Head, Psychic Fangs, and Super Fang. Super Fang to chip down a lot of stuff, but Psychic Fangs was mainly there for... Excuse me. What was it there for, actually? Breaking screens? I think I saw the potential of screens and I wanted to break screens. I'm not sure why I had Psychic Fangs. Probably filler. Might have been to hit the Araquanid the hardest that I could. I'm not entirely sure though. Rend pretty much gets a kill almost all the time, but Tangela is definitely a problem. Ironhead is also filler. This is mostly filler. Vicious Rend is pretty much the only move you ever click. I'm outspeeding Talonflame with this investment. Boltund is a bulk up expert belt set with Play Rough, Thunderfang, and Psychic Fangs. So Psychic Fangs with Strongjaw, Boltund lets me obliterate through the Nidoqueen potentially. Play Rough is there for the Zekrom primarily, and then Thunderfang hit everything else really, really well, besides the Tangela. So again, the Tangela is actually coming in quite clutch against my build so far. I'm running enough speed on the Boltund for Galarian Rapidash, which lets me be adamant as well on that. Yveltal is Black Glasses with U-Turn, Sucker Punch, Dark Pulse, and Hurricane. Sucker Punch there for the Mega Alakazam, of course. I'm running actually some attack investment for that, opting out of putting the rest of my EVs into HP and putting it into attack instead so that I can Sucker Punch that later, or Sucker Punch the Zekrom. Sucker Punch does seem kind of obvious on my part, but it's also necessary prep in case in case she's not prepping for it. Hurricane is primarily there for the Tangela, I believe. But also was a way to hit the Sylveon and the Umbreon. Sylveon came, but Umbreon did not come. Enough speed on here for Zekrom. Yep, I'm outspeeding max speed Zekrom with this investment. Heatran, I'm bringing a Leftovers mixed defensive set, but mainly specially defensive for the Sylveon with Rocks, Protect, Toxic, and Lava Plume. So mono Lava Plume. This is actually pretty free setup fodder for Zekrom if it had to be, but in theory I can Toxic Stall out the Sylveon with this. And just getting rocks up in general is really powerful, because the only removal on this team was Talonflame, and while Talonflame would run boots anyways, it just means free rocks against everything else that is on this team. Articuno is, again, it's a super sped F set. I didn't fix my HP, so it looks like my HP is wrong, but leftovers rather than heavy duty boots, because I wasn't really expecting a good rocker to come in this game, like his Nidoqueen and Stonjourner, and I figured I could sort of play around that. So, not the best idea on my part, if I'm being honest, but it's Sub-Toxic, Roost, and Freeze Dry. And then last but not least is Lando T, which is outspeeding Zekrom as well. It's a leftover set with Gravity for the Celesteela, which obviously didn't come. Earthquake, Rock Slide, and U-Turn. Rock Slide is there for the Talonflame and the Araquanid. Excuse me, and then U-Turn just to get out on things. So let's get on with the game. I've got the logo. Yes, okay. Music in the background, by the way, is Glitchuk City's Gym Leader Battle Theme remix for Sword and Shield, and I've just got it looping, and it'll probably be the theme song for all of the parts. Because if we're all gym leaders, or that's the idea at least, is that the alts are gym leaders or characters from Sword and Shield. This is a Galar themed season. In fact, Shade specifically gave it a theme name somewhere. Maybe I can find it. Sword and Shield Saga is the name of the season. So, all right, moving on into the game here against Sonia. We're just gonna lead with the Lando. I figured I could catch like a Nidoqueen lead, but ends up being the Sylveon, which is pretty free U-turn into my Heatran on a Hyper Voice there, which does pretty pitiful damage, and we'll also see the leftovers in the Sylveon. So free rocks on my part. It's not really like any question about that. Wish is an odd play, in my opinion, into the Nidoqueen. It was a pretty free Toxic for me, so Nidoqueen is like a good play. And then I'm gonna go into my Articuno here on the rocks play. I am leftovers, right? So kind of a yikes there. I'm just gonna freeze dry the Sylveon, and then I think I finally get a Toxic off on this thing now. Yeah, so Sylveon is now Toxic as he's going to Baton Pass. She is going to Baton Pass into the Zekrom. I'm really going to mess that up all the time, which is relatively free Dragon Dance for the Zekrom on my Articuno. It's actually going to opt to be mixed and miss a Draco Meteor, so kind of a big play there on that end, but I am going to outspeed the Zekrom, and Tangela looks like it's the Lando check. So Earthquake does absolutely nothing. U-turn also doing pretty much nothing. Tangela is just going to be able to switch in on this all the time, which is super obnoxious. And getting a Leech Seed off is also super obnoxious because it gets back way too much HP. Nidoqueen comes in on a Lava Plume, takes actually quite a lot of damage, and then gets a little bit back from Leech Seed there. Articuno was my switch in, but like I EV'd incorrectly, so you see I'm taking 50% instead of 49, and I'm not Boots, which is like the biggest of yikeses. Luckily for me, he forgot Magic Guard on Alakazam, and I get a freeze on the Freeze Dry. So yeah, that was kind of just, we both screwed up like what we wanted to do with those Pokemon in particular, Articuno and Mega Alakazam there. But the freeze, I don't know how much that's going to matter in the end. You know, the Alakazam, I have checks to it, so it's not like it's the end of the world. I'm just sort of trying to chip this Sylveon down as much as I can. I know it can't really touch my Articuno. I don't really want to let my Heatran come in because then Nidoqueen comes in and then I'm taking more damage with Articuno. So just trying to chip down the Sylveon as it's going to Baton Pass out into the Zekrom. So once again, the Zekrom is in. I'm definitely scared of a Fusion Bolt, so I'm going to go to my Boltund now. And actually just drop to a Draco Meteor. I'm actually a little bit confused why Draco Meteor was the play. It was potentially to hit the Lando, but Lando seems a little bit free now. And I hope that I U-turn. I do U-turn. Okay, so we're going to U-turn out on the Tangela, which is pretty obvious, and go into my Yveltal, which in this case, I'm planning on clicking Hurricane because it just kills the Tangela, but Mega Alakazam is obviously the sack there. Zekrom is going to come in. I'm kind of thinking this is Scarfed based on the way that it's being played. My Sucker Punch is not going to do enough. Draco does a lot, and then Sylveon's a pretty free answer. You know, the crit Draco actually may have mattered because I'm not running Roost on this Yveltal, but now I have to sack the Yveltal later. I'm kind of just saving it as a sack. It kind of sucks that the Zekrom is not as low as I would like it to be. Sylveon passing a Wish into the Zekrom here is pretty much worst case as well, because now the Zekrom's really healthy, and my Heatran is complete fodder for this. So I'm going to protect on, I wasn't sure what, but Bolt Strike, you know, I do think this is Scarfed, so it's in theory a free Lando for me on the Bolt Strike there, and I can, in theory, U-turn out on the Tangela switch in. But I think I just go for the safe play in Earthquake. Yeah, I just go for the safe play in Earthquake because I'm not confirmed that that Zekrom is Scarfed yet, which actually is going to lead to my Articuno losing its leftovers here on the knockoff. Yeah, so that's actually really bad. I needed that passive recovery quite badly, but Sylveon coming in here is actually not terrible. It means that this can no longer Wish Pass, assuming I get a Freeze Dry off that kills it. I actually low rolled a little bit there, but it's going to drop to the Toxic here. And unfortunately, I opted not to Roost, so now I'm in an even worse position as the Stonjourner comes in. But it's going to get a Rock Polish off. You know, it's not doing that much to my Lando, so I figure I can kind of just go for a kill here, at the very least on the Stonjourner. You know, it looked kind of okay in theory, but it's really not going to do that much damage to me. And now I'm in a position where my Yveltal is just fodder, so I'm just going to sack it off here to the rocks on the Zekrom, clicking Crunch, which is, you know, kind of okay. Tangle is going to be able to come in on my Rend and take absolutely nothing. I'm in a pretty bad position against this Tangela right now, especially with Leech Seed. Like, the combination of Scarf Zekrom plus Tangela is kind of just beating me, and my Articuno is going to have to be sacked here. Luckily, it's the Nidoqueen that comes in, so I can Roost on this because I think I'm faster. It looked to be a relatively defensive Nidoqueen. The Earth Power is doing pretty much no kinds of damage, and I can just keep Roosting with my Articuno. Really ballsy switch on the Zekrom there. Had I just freeze-dried, that would have been really bad. But Articuno looks like it's my win con, and I don't have heavy-duty boots, which is really bad. Luckily, it's locked into Bolt Strike now, so I'm just going to U-turn on the Tangela. No, I'm not. I'm Earthquaking. Okay. Well, I guess I'm still not convinced that that is Scarf Zekrom, even though it's very obviously Scarf Zekrom at this point in the game. Heatran's going to be able to come in and, you know, Leech Seed again, which is a huge yikes. Zekrom's definitely going to come in at some point, but I pretty much have to Lava Plume my way through this one. Unfortunately, the Nidoqueen is going to get back enough health at Lava Plume as a roll, and I didn't want to risk that, so I'm just going to go into my Dracovish, which I would have liked to have been healthier for the Zekrom, especially when Tangela is such a free switch in. This Tangela is such a problem for me at this point in the game. I really wish I'd clicked any other move with Dracovish, but, you know, luck of the draw, unfortunately. Heatran's going to come in. Something should die, in theory. The Nidoqueen, at the very least, will die to this Lava Plume. And then now everything on my team is in range of the Zekrom. So Zekrom's going to be able to come in. I'm not in range, or I'm still in range of Crunch, and my protecting and giving him Leech Seed recovery back is even just worse there. I wanted to scout and see what it would be, so I'm going to be able to sack my Dracovish. And then I figure I can go Articuno, but I'm not Boots, so, you know, maybe I take the Crunch. I do not take the Crunch. I probably should have just gone Lando instead the first time, Maybe I would have been able to take the crunch after that with Articuno, but even at -1, I'm not able to take crunch with anything. So unfortunately, we're going to take the 2-0 loss to Sonya in a really long game. Tangela just proved way too difficult to kill. Way too difficult to kill, and Scarf Zekrom ended up cleaning up the mixed Scarf Zekrom with Bolt Strike, Joker, Meteor, and Crunch. Ended up just being able to clean up the game a little bit too effectively for me. So that is the end of week 3. We finish this part of the season 2-1 plus 8. Not bad at all. I believe I was still in second. I guess I can double check that. Weekly info. After week 3, we were in third. We were in third at 2-1 plus 8 behind Rose and Nessa, at both of them at 3-0. And Sonya, who beat us, was in 5th. So not much I can do there, but that was one of the harder matchups of the season for me for sure. Zekrom was just such a problem. My mess up with Articuno being leftovers and not heavy duty boots in the first place really hurt me early on. The Tangela would have eventually knocked the boots off, of course. But at that stage, I probably would have been in a better position with Articuno healthier. Excuse me, I would have been able to kill the Nidoqueen before that, if Articuno was healthier, excuse me. I definitely over-prepped for Celesteela, which didn't come, and under-prepped for Tangela hard, which did come. My Lando set was completely walled by it. You know, I ended up having to sack Boltund for nothing. My Heatran was just mono-walled by Zekrom, which ended up really sucking. So as much as I liked rocks on this team, it just ended up not being great. Dracovish was also pretty bad against this roster in particular. If the Tangela hadn't come, I think Dracovish would have been a lot more effective, just because Rend would have been much, much, much safer of a click without Tangela. So that ended up being a little bit crappy, but not much you can do there. In the next week, next episode of this, which I guess I'll probably do these weekly, but the next episode of this is weeks 4 to 6. We are taking on Opal and the Glimwood Gloom, Melanie, and the Sirchester Snover, and who's that? Beatty and the Balonly Baltoy. So keep an eye out for that. I will do the same sort of format, and hopefully you guys enjoy this movie series for ABDL. I'm really enjoying it. I really enjoyed the season, and I hope that you guys can sort of get my perspective and my enjoyment out of this as well. So again, hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys for the next part.